What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Praise Podcast. My name is Eric Lyde. I have the pleasure of hosting this podcast each and every other week that we drop an episode. I am, of course, joined by the Brooke Paninsky. She's in the house repping a really cool new Central hat that she and only she has, but it's pretty cool.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And so we are so excited that you are joining us for today's episode. Welcome. We're glad to have you. If you are a regular listener, welcome back. It's good to see you again. If this is your first time listening, welcome to, this is going to be, your life will not be the same. After this next roughly 45 minutes to an hour, you will have experienced an experience that is going to reshape your life for the rest of your life. And you're going to uncover so many episodes, like over 50 of past episodes that now you are going to have to binge and you're going to have to listen to. And everywhere you go, you're going to be like, I need to listen to the Praise Podcast. That's what we're setting people up for, Brooke. No pressure.
That's great.
Yeah, it's going to be good. No,
So
we're glad
good.
to have you. It's a good time. It's a laid back time. So welcome to the conversation. You can leave a rating and review. We always love those. You know, I got on the other day, Brooke, just to check and see. I was like, I wonder if people
listen
actually
to
are
you?
doing this.
What'd you
A lot
learn?
of people don't. A lot of people don't listen to
Aw.
me, but that's fine. But I actually got on there and I realized a lot of people do.
Oh, really?
At least on the Apple podcast side of things, there were people
Oh.
that, not all written reviews, but we have received several ratings.
Oh, that's great. Were they good?
And they were all kind and good ratings. So, yeah. So I was actually pleasantly
Great.
surprised.
I
So-
haven't ever looked, so.
Well, it was the first time I
That's
thought,
awesome.
I usually ask people to do this. I was like, I don't know. I guess I should actually look and see,
if they
does
are.
anybody do? And based off the amount of people that they tell us listen, / based off the amount of ratings that are there, probably a quarter of the people have joined in. So if you're a
Good.
part of that 25% that have been kind enough
Way to be the
leave
25%.
way to be. If you're part of that 75%,
Oh.
ugh. What's your overall problem with us?
Oh, that's really funny.
Maybe it's one of those deals where they know is like, look, Brooke and Eric have said if I don't have anything kind to say, then just don't say it at all. And so maybe they are showing great restraint. But either way,
That's
we
great.
appreciate you listening. Brooke,
Mm-hmm.
how have you been?
Good.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Busy.
busy.
Everybody's busy.
It is.
We're only ever busy. And I always feel a slight conviction when I say busy from that one sermon, that one time, a really long time ago that John gave. So then I'm always like, maybe I shouldn't say that. But yeah, things have been
What
kind
was
of
that? I don't remember that.
I really literally would have to look, but basically the whole point of his sermon was just like he was just talking about like our schedules and our busyness and whatever, and
yeah.
like he's just like, I don't know, challenged us to like be more than busy, or just to whatever. But
Yeah.
anyways,
I think I remember what you're talking
it
about.
was a long time ago,
Yeah.
but every time I do, I'm like, oh, I'm just so busy. I think about that. But yeah, so there's a lot going on. But it's all great things and just a really cool season of ministry that is going to be fun to kind of dive into on this podcast episode. But, we're talking about the in-between. And I feel like that's where I'm at for a lot of things, like whether it be just with my personal schedule or things with the kids or, I don't know, things creatively on the table for some just different things. It's just all, I don't know. I'm just in this like prepping process, I guess, for everything that's going on. Yeah. So I don't know, but it's good. It's all good. And the prep is busy, but, yeah, it's a unique
Yeah, we'll
time.
dive more into that. More deeper.
Yeah.
A deeper dive into that.
So good.
But before we do that, let's hit the people with some songs that they should be listening to.
Love this part.
Do
you think people actually listen to our songs?
I don't know. I've had a couple people that I know have,
Yeah.
and they've appreciated
That's great.
the suggestions.
So
if
it's
you
worth
are,
doing?
So if you are not if you are somebody out there that don't ever actually go and listen to these songs,
Yeah, you just breeze through the song
then
spotlight.
you're like, you're missing out.
Man.
I mean, we're not just dropping.
Gosh.
We're not dropping junk here. Like, these are good songs that you should listen to. So
What's your song?
My song?
Or do you want me to go first?
No, I can go first this
Okay.
time. I always make you go first.
It doesn't matter.
I'll go first. So I've been in my 2024 goal
Yep.
for the song Spotlight was to try to do some stuff that maybe people are less familiar with, you know, that are not commonly
Which is a good goal to have.
Yeah, not commonly on the radio, they're not part of the big name Christian groups right now. And so the other day, Noah and I were talking about an old Chris Tomlin
Sounds
song.
like a breakfast food.
Breakfast. So we were talking about this old Chris Tomlin song called "The Wonderful Cross."
Oh yeah,
Do you remember that? And so, and then that just led us down this
A
rabbit
rabbit
hole of
hole.
like, oh yeah, that was a great song. You know, what about this song? And so,
and that's such a Noah song. Noah would just like to fiddle around and what the Wonderful Cross by Chris Tomlin.
Yeah.
Just let his anointing pour out.
So
it's so funny.
Then that led it down another road to like some other songs, but basically it was like that you know, early 2000s worship music at that time. And then it was actually you who said like, what about, because we were talking about just old cross songs, because it seems like there was a ton of old, like just really good old cross songs. And so basically then that led me to Sweetly Broken, because you were like, hey, what was that one song? And then I was like, oh yeah. So Sweetly Broken by Jeremy Riddle.
Oh yeah, because I could only just like remember like 2 lines.
Yeah, you were like that, and I was like, I know this song. What is this song?
I remember this.
So anyways, you should check out some early Jeremy Riddle. Is good stuff. Like he's a really good writer, and he has he's done some stuff with Bethel now, and he's kind of, honestly, he went through this weird phase where I think he actually kind of didn't really like the church all that much, because, you know, that feels like a pretty standard, like these guys, they, you know, they write, they get fairly well known, get burnt out or get burnt, and then, you know, they kind of have this, it's all bad, and then they kind of work their way back of, all right, maybe I was being dramatic. It's not all bad, but
I don't know anything about his story, but I do like a lot of what he makes.
Yeah.
So
he's the one he's the one who wrote Reset, that book.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's him. And that's kind of his story, his take on.
Where is he at? Planted? Like
I don't really know. I'd have to look.
Okay.
The last I knew, he, like I said, he was connected with Bethel.
Gotcha.
In that world, but I don't know what he does. But anyways, you should check out some old Jeremy Riddle. I mean, I don't know. He probably has new stuff. So you're not giving
a song, or are you just?
Well, I mean, Sweetly Broken.
Oh, that is your song.
I mean, I would say that one. That's a good one.
Okay.
Go back. You'll know that one. People will know that. But in general, he has, like, there's just a whole medley of well-written songs that are lyrically very good.
Nice.
Lyrically very good.
Great.
But then that led me down. The rabbit hole of now somehow on my Instagram. You know, I don't know how you end up on, like, people talk about like the sides of TikTok or the sides of Instagram. It's probably concerning because something in the algorithm has told them to feed me this stuff.
What are they feeding you?
They're feeding me Hanson.
Oh gosh.
And I'm not hating it.
That's hilarious.
Like, I'm getting probably every 5 to 10 videos, I will get Hanson doing an acoustic cover of Mbop in my feed.
That's it.
And it's not bad. It's not
like it.
It's not bad. Like, those guys.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, and I will say this: if you actually go look at the lyrics of Mbop, there's more there than that stupid little chorus of I mean, like, it's a good song.
Great.
So
I love that.
Yeah, I
love that for you in your algorithm.
Yeah, the other day I had a moment where it was like I realized I've officially reached, like, you know, like people say,
oh my gosh,
you know, like as you get older, like you just care less about a lot of different things, you know, as you get older. And I was just sitting, it was like one of those days, it was 70 degrees, and I had found this acoustic version of Mbop, and I was like, because it's been in my head because of all these Instagram videos. I had the windows down, I had acoustic I was at a stoplight.
That's
People,
so funny.
I was just blaring it. People probably like,
You're
wow,
in your bop era.
I'm in my bop era. It's back. So I always wanted to be Zach.
That's hilarious.
Because that was like, they came out of like prime, like,
yes,
I don't know,
they did.
probably grade school, middle school.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I always thought Zach was cool because he was the drummer and,
You're like, can relate.
Instead, I'm bald and, and no long golden locks. Anyways, there you go.
That's great.
I've taken enough
so,
time.
Mbop, your song spotlight.
My song spotlight is Jeremy Riddle and Mbop.
That's hilarious.
By Hanson.
Wow. You should have went last.
No, you can reel us back into reality here.
You're really funny. Okay, so I was... I always find the best songs just via shuffle. And, well, I say that, and it's either like I will go through a spell of, like, I don't want to listen. Like, if it doesn't just, like, strike my spirit in the first, like, 10 seconds, I just kind of skip past it. I'm very judgmental without meaning to be, And I was in the car the other day, and this song came on, and it's been a hot minute since Shuffle's given me a song that I'm like, what is this? And this song by Shane and Shane from 2020 was it was like, I don't know if it's just a single from Vintage is what, like, again, I don't know if it's like an album or however I literally don't know enough about music to make sense of this, but the song was Breathe on Shane and Shane's what could be a vintage album, whatever that means. But it's called Breathe. And so it's like the classic that we've talked about before, like, this is the air I breathe, this is the air I breathe. But then it goes on to, like, the chorus. I think it's the chorus, but it's just like, I want to burn for you.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
their song Yearn.
Yeah. They just, it's simple, it's good, it's glorious. It's like the vocabulary.
Oh, so it's like this is the air I breathe.
Yeah.
Combo into Yearn.
Exactly.
Ooh.
It's a mashup.
Ooh.
You're intrigued.
I'm intrigued.
I know. But it's really good. It's like the
We're
perfect
listening
song
to that on
you
the way
would
to
lunch.
Yes.
Okay, that's
100%.
great. You got it. No problem. That's easy. That's an easy ask. But yeah, so it's really good. It's to me like the first, it's like if I need to weep, if I need to
I don't want to cry,
pray, if I need to have a song for First Thursday, it's going to be Breathe by Shane and Shane. A communion song, a prayer time song, a turn off the lights and just like listen to the Father's voice
so
song.
it's a vibe song.
It could, it sets you up for a
well, and
a
Shane
lot
and
of
Shane
things.
just ripped their harmonies and
they're great.
They're
And
like the original. They were like Christian Rascal Flatts, the original Dan and Shay.
You know what? They really are.
Yeah, that's Shane and Shane. They were doing that before any of those other crew was doing like the sick male harmonies.
Sure, yeah. But they're solid. So yeah, that would be my song spotlight recommendation.
Good stuff.
Great stuff. And
Good
speaking of great stuff.
Speaking of great stuff. So here's what we were talking a little bit about this before we hit record, which is generally how this goes. But John starts, so again, just to catch some of you up, because I never want to assume that it's always just people that, already know us listening to this. So I'm a worship pastor at Central Christian Church in Mount Vernon. Brooke is a key part of our worship staff at the same church, Central Christian Church in Mount Vernon. And so we are both just fully in the weeds of creative ministry, worship ministry. But we both lead a department that really is in everything that happens at our church in so many different facets. And we have so many great people that we get to serve alongside with. But so all that to say, John, who is our lead pastor at Central Christian Church in Mount Vernon, is starting a brand new series. Will be this weekend. So depending on when you listen to this, he's starting a new series called In the In Between. And so he always does a sermon run through with some of our pastoral team on Thursdays, just to do it, kind of gets everybody's input from, like, hey, am I stretching things? Am I, does this make sense? Basically just kind of a vetting process, both scripturally and just content-wise. So we listened to that yesterday, and the first one he's doing is on Joseph, Old Testament Joseph, coat of many colors Joseph, Brandon Lake's favorite Joseph. And so it's that has just been in my mind of this idea of in between, because I feel like, as Brooke and I were talking before this, like we've very much been kind of in this season of in between, and as far as ministry goes, because our you could call it transition, you could call it in between, you can call it whatever, but basically when we say in the in between, we mean you're not really on the mountaintop, but you're also not really in the valley.
Mm-hmm.
You're just somewhere in the in between,
Mm-hmm.
which I believe that's where we live the majority of our life. We're not always riding these mountaintop highs, and hopefully we're not always stuck in dark pits of valley and wilderness and all these other things. And so most of the time we are walking, living, we're either climbing up or we may be climbing on our way down, but we are somewhere in the in-between. And so John this week is talking about kind of Joseph's life. And if you don't know the story of Joseph, you can find that in Genesis. I think it starts in like 37 and goes through like 49 or 50, I think, somewhere in there is basically, by those numbers, I mean chapters. So Genesis chapter 37 through Genesis chapter 50, I believe, is pretty well the majority of Joseph's life that he's talking about. So I would encourage you, go read that, check that out, read it for yourself. But Joseph's life really is an example of living in the in-between of a lot. So if you don't know Joseph, he's this dude, he was the youngest of a lot of brothers. He basically, Lord blesses him, gifts him. He starts having these dreams. He's kind of the favorite child. Everybody knows the youngest child's always the favorite child. I don't know, Brooke, you have a bunch of siblings. Is that true?
It's
the
so
youngest,
true.
Is the youngest the favorite?
Yep.
Who is the youngest? Abby?
Maddie.
That
makes a lot of sense now for you, doesn't
it?
it?
Yeah, it all,
It all
makes
makes
sense. And so, yeah, he's the youngest. Basically, his brothers get really jealous.
Mm-hmm.
They don't like him because he's got these crazy dreams he's throwing out, whatever. So they're basically like, you know what? Let's get rid of him. They throw him in a pit, take his famous coat of many colors, make it look like he got killed. And long story short, he then gets picked up, gets shipped off to Egypt. Potiphar, big man, Egypt, becomes basically kind of his right-hand servant. Does that. God blesses him a whole lot in that season. And then Potiphar's wife falsely accuses Joseph of basically sleeping with her. Potiphar tosses him in jail. He then spends a whole lot of time in jail, meets these two guys that are real close with Pharaoh in Egypt, has encounters with them through interpreting dreams, then spends a lot of time in prison. One of those guys finally, after a while, remembers him, comes back. It's like, hey, he interprets Pharaoh's dreams. Then next thing you know, now he's like the second most powerful dude in Egypt, lives that out, carries Egypt through this crazy famine, and then full circle basically comes back to where now Joseph is put in a spot where he could off his brothers if he wanted to, or save them, and it's just a wild, crazy story. So like I said, that was the Eric Cliff Notes version of Joseph's life. Skipped a whole lot, so please go back and listen to it. But anyways, Joseph experiences what we would consider a lot of mountaintops, a lot of valleys, but he's also a lot of in-betweens, living that out. A lot of time where he's just sitting. And I found it interesting in the scripture, there are multiple times, specifically in those in-between times, where it says the Lord was with Joseph. And so that just, it reminded me, one, of the importance of the presence of God being with you in the in-betweens. And that's the importance to be seeking the presence of God in the in-between. It's easy to do it, it's easy to celebrate the presence, I feel like, when we're on the mountaintop. It's easy to call out for the presence when we're in the valley and we need help. But it's that in-between times when Joseph still, like, the Lord was with him. And so even when he was in a pit, God protected him. When he was thrown in jail, God made him super successful while he was a prisoner or a slave. And then, all these different things, because the presence of God was with him, he was there. So all that to say, that basically just got us talking about living in the in-between. So Brooke, after I just spewed all of that out, what comes to mind?
I'm Googling scripture right now as
Perfect.
we speak. There are two initial thoughts that come to mind, but like the first one, I think the topic of conversation is just like, so then like, how do I steward the in between? Like, what happens in the between? What do I need to do in the between? And the in between, to me, it is where we gain endurance. Like I feel like we can persevere in the valleys. Like to me, and this is just Brooke, but like the perseverance that requires just like a deeper part of me, like to really gain some grit and fight the fight and wage, wars waging, whatever. Like perseverance to me comes in like that capacity. Hope, obviously, is what I receive and understand and believe the most when I'm on a mountaintop, because I'm like, it really is real. And I've hoped for it from, point A to point B, but now on the mountaintop, I'm like, no, it's real. And I understand hope and I believe hope. I've experienced hope. But like endurance is like, when you're in your race, you're in your training, you're having to gain the discipline, the in between. I think that's like when you think about a race you're going to run, like that's the training you do. Like, so you start your race, you've got all this training, and then like for the day of the marathon, you know what I mean? So in retrospect, I feel like we're only ever in between from here to heaven, if that's the main race we're running, But yeah, there's a lot. I think there's a lot to dive into and talk about, or to like reflect on it in that topic alone. But I think that's the first initial thought that I'd have. It's just the discipline that is required, or what are like practical things that we could do or need to be aware of. Like, how do I know if I'm in the between? You know, like, and then if I am, then how should I steward the in between, or what's important for me to understand in the in between, or what discipline do I need to gain in the in between? And, and again, I think it just kind of goes back to stewardship, maybe, of just like, how are you stewarding the in between? What are you seeking in the in between? Are you content in the in between? Are you hungry still in the in between? Are you striving in the in between? Like, are your eyes still upward and onward in the in between?
Yeah.
I
think Hayden mentioned it yesterday as we were talking through the sermon. I think he said, and it's kind of what you're saying in a way, and it kind of relates to some of the conversations we've been having recently on the podcast. But he was kind of saying, basically, God or others will remember you by how you walk the in between.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot to that. Because like we said, knowing that we live the majority of our time, our lives, probably in the in between is, those are the times that people, and I think, I don't know, picturing, mainly probably because Ashton made a cool graphic where it's like these two mountains and this valley, in between it. And then like in my head, as we've been talking about this, because I want to think about it in a positive way, I am picturing it as like the trek up.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And so, but like, and a lot of people talk about this, and whether it's, leadership, whatever, but, I just keep thinking, the in-between is the majority of the climb up, but it's also, kind of with what Hayden said, you can't take anybody else farther than you've been yourself. So you can't tell somebody else how to climb from the valley to the mountaintop, basically how to climb through the in-between, if you haven't done it yourself. And so that was one thing that I've thought about a lot recently is, like how would somebody look and view, because we don't always know when people are in the in-between, but we know when somebody's in something, like when there's crazy time at work, or, health diagnosis, or family stuff, whatever it is. And so I just think, like, what example am I setting, for people? Will they remember how I have walked the times that I would consider are in between times for me? And so, Yeah, there's a lot there.
Mm-hmm. So it makes me think of, again, with this idea of like marathon / hiking upward, whatever you want to say, you know, like
Every time you say marathon, it just makes me think of the Office episode
oh,
when they run the marathon.
yes.
It's like, I've never ate more fettuccine and drank less water in my life.
in my life.
That's so good.
It is so good. And I know what you're talking about, and I don't even watch The Office that much. That's how good that episode is. So, but like, if you don't train, like the day of the marathon, people are going to know that. You know, like where you fall in line the day it actually counts. Like it's like, that's when your character like really shines through. Like that's when like the integrity and of the discipline that you chose to step into, you know, when people weren't watching and when you had all the time, you know, to do it. Like that's when the proof is in the pudding, right? You know? And so it's like when we as Christians are in our in-between seasons, and I think that's why the word like discipline just keeps coming to mind, but I'm like, but it's who you really are. Like it's how you actually really love God. And it's like, how do you really live your life like as just like your normal day-to-day stuff? Like it's easy to be on your A game when you know certain eyes are on you, or when you're prepping for a certain thing, or when you've reached whatever like pinnacle moment of your faith you think it is, especially in our culture, you know, like with Christian influencing or whatever. It's just like, it's easy when you're in that kind of, I don't know, position or whatever, like to then check to make sure all your like T's are crossed and your I's are dotted and that you really are who you say you claim to be, you know, like, but then it's, and I love that Hayden said that about like, that's how people, what did he say? Really like remember you by. Because that's who you really are. And I was on this class or whatever with Alex Seeley, and a couple weeks ago she said it, and I'll never forget it because it's so simple and so true. But she said, if you want to stand out in today's culture, then be someone who has integrity. You know, like just be a hard worker, be nice, like be authentic. Yeah. Like she's like, when you just do those things, you stand out of a crowd like that. And it's so true. And so even with this idea of who you are in the in-between, if you're just someone who has integrity and who actually every day wakes up and you're in your word, or who actually every day like wants to talk to your kids about, you know, their faith, or you discipline them in a way that honors the Lord, or that you challenge them, or that you don't parent them, you know, how culture says you should, or have them involved in all these things culture says you should. Instead, you ask the Father, you know, what about your marriage? You know, is the Lord bringing you to one place from another? What does that look like? Are you allowing him to prune you in your marriage? Are you allowing him to, you know, humble you in your workplace? Are you allowing him to, what does that look like in the in-between? It's who you really are with him. And then I think that is just exemplified and just really shown on the day the marathon comes, when it's like, because you can't fake it. Like you can't fake your relationship with the Lord. Like when it comes down to it, like when it's game on, like you can't pretend you're, I don't even know what I'm talking about. But I hope you know what I'm trying to say. Like you can't fake anointing. You can't fake that you love him. You can't fake your passion for him. You can't fake strength. You can't fake peace of mind. You can't fake whatever. Like it only really actually comes from the source. And if you're not spending any time with the source, then it's going to come like when you are in a valley, or when you are on the mountaintop, whatever way the challenge comes, it's like you can't fake it. People are going to see right through you if you didn't do the work in the in-between.
Yeah. It's good.
Yeah.
It's good.
Good for thought for that one.
That is.
Yeah.
What do you think it's like? I could imagine, because I myself was thinking this yesterday, as like, you know, John's doing this sermon. How do you know if you're in the in-between? Like, can you know? Like, do you think that there's how do you know? I mean, I think it's probably easy to know when you're on the mountaintop. I would assume. I feel like I don't know. I feel like that's an easier one to know. Yeah. Well,
and you know when you're in the valley.
Yeah. But I think, I don't know, maybe in my mind, I'm thinking that I could mistake the in-between for the valley.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
And I could maybe, and vice versa, I could think I'm in a valley, but I'm really just in the in-between.
That's good. I think there's a couple ways. I mean, I'm sure it's different for everyone, and there's 10,000 other things that I could say.
That's a lot of things.
But you know me, and I could. And so but like, well, I say all that to say, like, if I actually had time to think about this question, I'm sure there are other things and better things I could say other than just off the, top of my head in this moment. But the first thing that I feel Holy Spirit brings to mind is I feel like a way to identify if you're in a season of in between is the spirit of discontentment. Mm-hmm. Like if you have a spirit of discontentment, or you feel like you're bored, or you feel like there's no drama, you know what I mean? Or like when someone's like, who has a prayer request, and you really can't think of anything, you know what I mean? And it's just like when there's just like not a weight, when there's not this prevalent thing, or when you have like something you feel like you're waiting for, I mean, I'm just using all this from my own life and my own example, or relationships that I'm in, or friends that I have and know where they're at. Like, I mean, I think those are all signs that like we're somewhere in between, whether it's I desire a spouse and I don't have one yet. I desire one day to be a mom or a dad, but I don't have kids yet. You're waiting for it. I want a different house. I'm waiting for it. I'm praying for it. I don't need it now, but it's going to come, and then hopefully soon though, or when we have a job that we have, or a ministry we've been given, or a task laid at us. But yet like, we don't care as much about that as we do like something else that's honestly not a call, or nor is it as important, but that's what we would rather do than be obedient to the call in our life. And it's like, that to me, those are all signs of like, I think I'm in the in-between right here. When I feel like I don't have clarity, when I feel like my to-do list or my task list isn't, I don't know, filled with things prominently, like preparing me for like something obvious, like when the mundane creeps in. I think when I feel like I've not had to be on guard, I feel like for a spiritual sense, like you'll hear people say like, just in the Bible talks about like watchmen, and they are important. And it's like, when I feel like as a watchman, I don't have any like dream or vision or word for a season or for a church or like whatever, like the church or whatever. It's just like, maybe I feel like there's no inspiration or fire there, or there's no like get up in my spirit, or like, I mean, it could be a list of things. I'm thinking of dozens of people right now, and it's just like, I think those are all signs that we might very well be in this in between.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
What do they say? No man's land, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think that's where, I think for sure the last couple months have been that for me. Like I think, it's I feel like in ministry, because you're just the way that I feel like I'm more susceptible. Boy, that's a hard word.
That's a good word.
Susceptible. I don't know how to spell that. Susceptible to. Am I saying that right?
Sure.
Feels
people know
wrong.
what you're saying.
It feels wrong, but anyways, you know what I'm trying to say. Susceptible.
Stop saying it. Just move on with your sentence. Oh my gosh.
I feel like I'm more that word.
Prone. We'll say prone. I'm more prone.
Like, I'm prone to highs and lows. I feel like because I'm in situations more. I feel like I'm in a lot of situations that just could easily lead you to a spiritual high or lows, and just in general. But for sure, I feel like I've been in a like. I don't know that I've ever had more on my plate to do, manage, oversee, make happen, whatever. Like I cannot ever think of a time where like that, but at the same time, like it doesn't feel like the weight is there, but it's like I've known now for a couple months that weight is there and it's coming, but it's not here yet. and it's getting ready to hit. I know that.
Oh, man.
Just because
so
that's what the calendar tells me.
Yeah.
But it's just, it has been a very, like, where I can feel like and I think that's maybe where God has been trying to prepare. Like, I can feel the stress and the weight that's there, but it's like he's trying to get me, like, I think he's been trying to prepare me for it so that I can survive it.
I mean, there's something to say about that.
And I can
Wow.
feel that. And I don't know that I'm not saying that I've, like, taken his wisdom and done all the things that but, like, I can tell, like, recently I have had a renewed sense of, like, urgency in, like, I got to get my sleep schedule under control. Because, like, my sleep schedule has been
way out of whack.
And a lot of that is it's just my own fault. Like, it's not, like, anything other than I just need, like you say, discipline. And, like, I have felt very much of, like, because I know what's coming, I felt like an urgency to, I need to get my quiet time in the mornings. Like, I need to get that discipline on lock because my sleep schedule's been out of whack. My morning is thrown off.
Yeah.
And then
you just find yourself at work. Yeah, you're like, what? How did I get here?
And then because all of that, then, like, I mean, I am far from, like, workout nut, gym nut, diet person, but, like, every time I get old, like, every year that goes by, I'm like, just, I would love to live at least long enough to be active with my kids and to, see them do things. So, like, I try to at least get 30 minutes of something in every day. But then it's like, if that's off, then that's off. And then I'm tired and I don't want to do that. Or and so the last couple of months has very much been, I have, and I believe it probably is him. It is God trying to say, like, look, because I know basically starting today, March 1st, starting today, the whatever the gun they fire off has gone off, and, like, it starts, like, today. And so, and I just, for the last 2 months, have very much kind of felt that, like, I've had plenty going on, but it hasn't been, like, chaos. And so, and you come out of Christmas season, which is chaos. And then I've had 2 months of, like, I know more chaos is coming.
But let me enjoy just the
But I
moment
haven't
to breathe.
had, but I mean, and it's been it's been swamped, but it's not
that
chaos.
swamped.
It's not chaos.
Yeah, it's crazy. People wouldn't
And
even
then
know. Wow.
and then it's like, but now I know. Okay, we're back. Like, it's back. But I really have, like, and I think that's because God is good. Like, He's tried. Now, I said I'm not. I have received
the warning, Pastor.
I have received the, like, hey, these are little things that you need to tighten up. Like, you need to do. But and I think He's shown me that even with our team as well. Like, I feel like that's one of the things of, like, I've had an aware sense, like a heightened sense of, like, I need to be on my A game, like, what do you want to call it? Pastoring, whatever, leading, like, the team that I'm in charge of. Like, I need to have a heightened awareness and sense of what's going on with them right now. Because, again, this season we're about to enter into is the chaos will sweep them up as well. And so I really, the last 2 months has very much been an in-between. And so, and I think that now it's time to start hiking, one way, I guess, up or down. And it's probably no coincidence that it's always harder to go up than it is to go down. And so there's probably something to that as well.
Well, you know what? I think, like, maybe it's harder to go up. I mean, those who actually hike, I'm not for it. So I don't really actually know if it's easier to go up or down.
I don't hike much either.
But I think coming down matters more.
Yeah.
I think how we come down is the most important part of that journey. because we're always going to come down, and as you know, ministry like ebbs and flows, as life ebbs and flows, we're always going to have moments where we say hypothetically we're going up, but like, so by golly, on this side of heaven, gravity does exist. So like, we're coming down, and maybe coming down seems easier. Maybe that's not true. I don't know, but
maybe it's
like,
not easier, but it's quicker, I guess.
It's and because I think it's quicker to destruction.
Yeah.
You know, like you can come down very fast, and that's why I think
Especially
like you
if
can
you're
get
tumbling.
hurt. Yeah, I mean, really though, and I think about like Steve Smith, one of our is he an elder? Was an elder, is an elder, right? He's an elder.
I don't know if I think he's on right now.
I don't know, but if it's not, he should be.
I just always consider him on. Whether he's
being
on or off, he's always on.
I
in my
know.
book.
I can never keep up. But anyways, but he and we love him, and he is just filled with wisdom. And anytime I'm in a conversation with him, I just don't want to speak because I only want to listen to every word that he says, which says a lot about me because I talk a lot. But like, I
Don't
want
you ever
to
feel that way when you're with me?
I feel like I need to give my wisdom. I need to impart to you, Eric. That's
Got
why
it.
I feel
Got
like
it. I'm supposed to shut up and listen. Got it. Got it.
But anyways, so Steve was talking about this trip that they went on to Israel, and they were climbing. Is it Mount Arbel? Is that how you say it?
I don't know how to say it, but I think that's the right mountain.
Okay, I could totally be wrong in pronunciation. I'm no Bible scholar, but they were climbing up this mountain, and that's what people believe that was Jesus's favorite spot to be. And when he was up there on the mountain is when the Bible would say he would go and get away with the Lord, go get away with his Father. Like that's where they believed he would climb up this mountain to get away and be alone with his Father. And from this mountain, their photos were incredible. I can only imagine what it was like in real life, but like it overlooked the whole area, just about nearly the whole area of ministry he did. And you could see the Sea of Galilee, you could see the town, you could see, I mean, all of it. So I just thought it was cool though, because he was sharing that like the hike up there was like
Oh, yes, I remember
so hard.
Yeah, it's the hardest one, I believe he said.
It was the hardest one. It was 117 degrees outside. Yeah. And their whole crew hiked up this mountain. And one of the things that maybe it was Maria who said, because she was also on this trip, and she said it made me think it made me think about Jesus and how hard he was willing to work to be alone with the Father. And then she said, and it convicted me, and it made me think, how hard am I willing to work to be alone with the Father? Because knowing how hard it was to climb up this mountain, she's like, and he did this when he wanted to be alone with them, you know? And then, but then Steve on the opposite hand of that said, the trek down was more challenging than the trek up. You were doing it like backwards, and you were doing it quickly because the rain was coming. And he was like, if there's anything you don't want to be, it's on a mountaintop when the storm's rolling in. So they had to like hurry and get down. And anyways, it just, all of what they had to teach about that had really widened my perspective and my imagination just about, I don't know, the way I think about Jesus getting alone with the Father, the way I think about how hard am I willing to actually work to get alone with him or to do anything that he says? Like, am I willing to put in that work and that sweat and that grit? Do I even have it in me, you know? And then I'm like, how would I handle coming down? Like, how would I handle the coming down? And it's the most important part. I feel like it matters so much. And even in a spiritual sense or figuratively, literally, whatever, but it's just like how you come down, like, could kill you if you're not careful. Like one misfooting, like if I'm even saying that correctly, but like you step on one wrong thing, you slip one time. I mean, like it's you'd tumble to your death. Maybe literally, maybe figuratively, maybe spiritually, whatever. But it's just like the enemy can for sure use our descent, you know, as I don't know, just as a means for attack. Like, I mean, I don't know. There's a lot I could keep saying about it. Shocker, but I'll quit. But it's just
what I was picturing as you were talking about
was me climbing down the mountain and falling my one misstep.
I wouldn't.
How miserable
I wouldn't have
I would
those
be.
thoughts, Brooke. No, what I was literally thinking was when like helping Hayden hang Christmas lights.
Oh yeah,
it is for sure. The easiest, like I have zero issue setting up the ladder, and I will run up it.
Mm-hmm.
But when it's time to come down,
Mm-hmm.
that's when I'm hesitant because I'm like, the step onto the roof is no problem. But for whatever reason, my senses kick in when it's time to take the step off the roof because that feels like that's a lot trickier step than just climbing up the ladder, stepping onto the roof and doing your thing. But it's when you have to step off the roof. That's what I was thinking about as you were talking about that.
That's true.
Because it's very much like that's the time like you are like you're stepping off into like if you miss that ladder rung, like it's gonna be it's gonna be a rough it's gonna be a rough that's gonna suck, But it's like when you get up to the top of the ladder, all you see is this big roof that you can climb up on. But like when you're looking off the roof down, all you see is this little 1-inch wide piece of ladder that you got to get your foot on. Yeah. Or you're gonna go down very quickly and
well, and let's talk about that for a second.
Painfully.
So like, you're in the in-between. Again, it all requires humility. It requires discipline. It requires intentional perspective, focus, and vision. I mean, like it's the time you have to do. It's all prep work. And if you think about it as prep work and not a waste, then like you're going to be better off when the next season comes and you have to use what you're talking about. It's just like the prep work that the Lord had you, and He's stretching and preparing you to be able to handle the tasks ahead that He has given to you. Yeah. And so it's like we need to not waste that opportunity. But then we get to, and we might not have even mentioned it. I honestly don't remember. But like, if you are listening for the first time or you don't know, our church is for the first time switching ministry models, and we're moving to multi-site ministry. And what that means is we have multiple campuses in different areas, and we're having our first campus launching an hour, whatever. Is it south? Yeah. An hour south of where we are. And it's in a town called Carbondale, Illinois. And we had a team from our Mount Vernon campus. They're starting, this Carbondale campus. But like March, is it 31st, Easter Sunday?
That's the day.
Is like the day that we will have church there for the very first time. And oh my gosh, I just have to say this because why not? So even if you know about this, you might think this is cool. And if you don't, it's really okay. Listen in about 2 more minutes. But so the other day on Sunday, John was like announcing to, our congregation, just like, I know we've said March 3rd, but because of like building construction and because of things out of our control, we're really, because again, in this in between we've been in, it's been like, is March 3rd going to work? Probably not. What do we do? And it's just like every day we just have to feel it out. Anyway, so he announces officially, it is not March 3rd, but it is no matter what, March 31st. And I kid you not. I'm standing back like of the stage and I'm watching John do this. I'm looking at the people and I hear just the Lord say to me, that's when I wanted it. And I just think how wild. I mean, God's going to have His way no matter what. However we do the in-between, He's going to have His way no matter what. And it's like, so of course we are fasting and praying until freaking Easter Sunday is when we're launching this campus. And on a spiritual sense, that's just mind-blowing because it's what it's all about. You're telling me the very first time we opened the doors to Carbondale campus, we are not only just sharing the gospel, we're talking about the resurrection story, which is the authority that we have. It's the whole reason we have any authority at all to do the ministry we're about to, step into. I just got all sorts of fired up, but I thought that was really cool. So here I am talking about Easter Sunday. We're starting that campus in just a couple weeks, which is what Eric is referring to with like the preparation and the task and the workload that's coming. I mean, people would have no idea all that it takes to do all of this. But it is a lot and it is extensive and it's costly in a lot of ways. And it's just, I don't even know why I'm talking about that. I feel Holy Spirit all over me, but what were we talking about? I'm distracted greatly now.
I don't know.
But anyways, but Carbondale campus, that's what you're referring to with all the extra work and all that's coming and the craziness of this month. For the people who didn't know, that we keep referring to like the elephant in the room, the good elephant. Yeah. But like we didn't never clarify that for the people who don't know. Maybe that's all I needed to say. I don't know.
That's good.
No, anyways, it's
that's
fine.
Good.
Yeah, it's great.
Last thing I'll say.
Let's do it. Let's hear it.
Is as I keep thinking about this ladder analogy, it just keeps building in my mind. But I think it's important too because I was just thinking about how like usually for both Hayden or I or like Nick, whoever's helping us, generally the only time we ask somebody else to hold the ladder is when we're coming down.
Yep.
Not like who cares about going up? Like, but then like when we're coming down, that's when we'll say, hey, will you grab that ladder? Or, will you watch this ladder?
That's good.
And so I think that like as other Christians, we should, be on the lookout, but be willing to put yourself in, like recognize if you've got a friend or a family member, your spouse, whatever, that is on the way down. You're there to figuratively hold the ladder as they come down.
That's good.
Or if you know that you're coming down, that's also a time to not have the pride of not asking for, hey, I need you to hold this, because
to climb down isolated is like when you die.
Yeah.
Like hiking, just you don't do that kind of stuff alone.
Yeah. So that just was the other thing, that like the importance of relationship in that.
So
whether
important.
you're,
and humility,
especially on the way down.
Humility.
Ooh, it's time for lunch.
Mexican Food Friday.
It's time for lunch. All right. Well, thank you all for listening. We're just really thrilled. We've entered year 3 of the Praise podcast, and honestly, we kind of talked about this, I think, on the last episode, but we really didn't have. I don't know what our expectations were really, or even plans were for when we started this. We just knew that we wanted to start it, and it's just kind of gone where it's gone. And so we really appreciate you all listening. We are excited for what the future could look like, what could come from this. And so hang with us, stick with us as we continue to plan and prep and think about what's next for this podcast and you all that listen. And so we're excited to continue to bring these conversations to you, and hopefully to only build on how and the why that we do that for. And so we appreciate you all listening. Again, there's like 75% of you out there that have not left a rating and review. So I'm saying, if another 25% wanted to join in and leave a rating and review, then that would cut us down to 50%, because I'm a math wizard. So that'd be pretty crazy, wouldn't it, Brooke? If 50% of the podcast listeners left a rating and review, that'd be nuts. So anyways, we appreciate you listening. We'll be back every other Monday with a new episode. We love you all. We appreciate you all. As always, let's be people that in every way and every day bring the praise. We'll see you next time.